All right, so before in a previous video, I had traced the modern metal stylings back to Necrophagist, but what I failed to do was acknowledge a band that kind of capitalized on the flashiness of Necrophagist, but were one of the first to apply it to the metalcore aesthetic. Before we get into this band, we could talk a little bit about metalcore and what that did to the metal genre. It's everybody knows it as a very bastardized genre, very maligned genre, and there's a good reason for that. Metal is a genre that is cathartic for the artist. It's not written with the audience in mind. If you're a metal band, your goal is not to get the audience to move. It's not to dazzle them with a technical showcase of any kind. You're trying to make some kind of statement, and it's meant for the artist. It's not meant for the audience. In the early 2000s, metalcore came to be based on gleaning different aesthetics from established metal norms. They heard Slaughter of the Soul, took the consonant concept of melody, and they enjoyed the burly aspects of the hardcore scene with mosh parts, as they were called at the time. Now they're breakdowns. They were able to catch on to the idea that if you do open chugs in a syncopated rhythm, you can mimic the aesthetic of what Meshuggah is doing, but not the substance of what they're doing. But people don't pay attention to anything beyond surface level means, so that was the Meshuggah style. You're able to copy that very easily. And you mix that all in a pot and you get what metalcore is. And middle of the aughts, it kind of hit its peak, and then it kind of faded out a little bit or morphed into what modern metal is today. And the first band to really capitalize on the gleaning of aesthetics and take it to the next extreme by pretending to be progressive metal is Animals as Leaders. The main songwriter of Animals as Leaders, Tosin Abasi, a hell of a player. And usually when I make a critical video on an artist, I will acknowledge they can play circles around me. I don't care about that. I care about what they are bringing to the table as a message, what their inherent style is, and whether or not their voice needs to be heard or they are going to suffer from an inability to communicate what true artistry should be. I had met Tosin in his previous band, Reflux, many years ago. Very nice guy. I do not want to talk shit on him as a dude. But Reflux was a flashy metalcore band that played, they looped in real time. I've done that before. It fucking sucks. Don't do it. And they were good at it. You know, they were tight as a button. And you know, they wowed the crowd. Tosin is a flashy player, a flashy dresser. He is someone that you can look at and think that dude is fucking cool. He's cool. He's hip. You can't deny it. And I think that he is the perfect medium for people that gravitate towards the modern metal aesthetic over the substance of what metal was, because they see this well-dressed, flashy player, and they strive to be that. And after Animals as Leaders broke, you got from that the YouTube guitarist phenomenon that we have now. You have anything that is currently clogging the internet airwaves with modern guitar stylings, your sweet-picked breakdowns, whatever, all gets traced back to this. Most specifically, this song from their 2009 record. I think it's self-titled. This song, CAFO, don't know what it is an acronym for, initialization for rather, but this song is pretty much everything that is wrong with modern metal in a 6.5 minute segment. I think there's about maybe 4 parts. As you know, if you've listened to what I've had to say on this channel, you'll acknowledge that I talk about arrangement more than riff stylings because the song is more important than the parts that make it up. Your song is your artistic statement, and your album is your more grandiose vision of that statement with the song as a microcosm of what you're trying to build towards. If you were trying to make yourself known in the metalcore genre, you did not care about that. And you don't care about it now if you're a modern metal player. You care about short bursts of dazzling the audience with technical prowess and whether or not you can harness enough of a primal rhythmic beatdown in between that garbage to get people to nod their heads. That's it. This song has, I think, 4 parts. None of them are pieced together well. I think that most of them have the silence in between parts completely, or the rhythm section drops out. So what you have here is you have your sweep picking nonsensory, you have your rhythmic chugs underneath, you have the ethereal kind of cleanish passage that everyone kind of copied with their amp simulation devices, and then you kind of tie it back up by bookending it with the original passage that started the song. And in between, in those minutes in between, you have pretty insane musicianship, admittedly. But once again, if you have the best tools in the world, but you do not have a worthwhile project to construct with them, you do not have, you don't have anything objectively worthwhile. And people are gonna look at this band and what Tosin is doing and call him a progressive metal guitar player, call him a jazz player, call him a progressive rock guitar player. None of these definitions or genres really mean anything anymore. To me, this still comes from that spirit of metalcore. It's just a notier, busier, more flashy version of metalcore. It's the end stage of metalcore. You can pick up on the melodic characteristics of that genre. You could pick up on the syncopated rhythms that they stole from Meshuggah, all of it in a blender and kind of pushed as a progressive product to you, because nowadays progressive means notey or superficially complex, technical. Progressive doesn't mean anything anymore. It's like Subway calling their food fresh. Doesn't mean anything. But before I get too far down the rabbit hole of trying to define what this band is, I want to look at the song itself, talk about how this particular song has changed the face of modern metal, and talk about how I don't really see it being reversed, because this style really preys on the inability of the modern musician and the modern person, in essence, to pick up on substance within music or art. It hits all the right notes superficially. It's busy. It's erratic enough where the fragmented mind of the OCD generation can listen to it and think that there's a lot of depth going on because it sounds so busy. But if you were to actually break down what the song is, you can pinpoint that there really isn't a whole lot going on here aside from the aesthetic. So let's have a listen, and I'll break it down as I go. So this is the perfect amalgamation of the only 2 things the modern player in metal can recognize when they hear music now. They can hear sweep picking and they can hear a syncopated rhythm. That's pretty much the recipe now for what modern metal is. You can look back through my old videos at any of the modern metal players, and they're doing exactly this. When they can't come up with an actual well thought out riff, they're going to give you just the syncopated open string rhythm, and they're going to fill the gaps with sweep picking because it sounds crazy, even though it's still an exercise. When you hear what he's doing, there's variations in it. It's not straight up the same kind of sweep up and down, but it's essentially scalar and predetermined mathematically. There's not a whole lot of actual humanness to what's going on here. There's no intelligence behind the note choices. He just wanted to do a sweep picking exercise, and he wanted to anchor it with an open note rhythm underneath it. And this is the thought process when you write for your audience instead of writing for yourself, instead of trying to get a message out or trying to have catharsis in yourself. You think, what can I dazzle the audience with? What can I put underneath it to get them to headbang and mosh? And how can I get them to think that I have more going on than I do? That's really what I'm hearing when I hear this style, and especially this song. And if, like I said, if you turn on any YouTube guitar player now, they owe their careers to this. This really does kind of simplify everything wrong with the modern metal approach in one single riff. But maybe they can piece it together as the song goes. Maybe the next riff will have a natural flow. Let's find out. Okay, so once again, percussion dropout, rhythm section dropout as your transition. And he does foreshadow what is going to be a passage that is important to the song here. That is good. And the rhythm that you've been hearing in this pattern is still kind of consistent with that scale he just played. So it's not a complete departure. But now he's doing a clean passage. It's still your rapid 16th notes. It still all falls right in line. So we're not hearing a dramatic tempo change that you can kind of get away with when you drop out your rhythm section. So I will give them credit for that. But they bombarded the audience with this frantic scale work and rhythm, and then just break completely to give you this clean passage that in essence will do the same exact thing, but clean. So it's just a dynamic shift. It doesn't really progress a story in songwriting form. It's more of the same, but we'll hear how that develops. No, don't do that. So they stopped everything to go into this next passage. Once again, what is the goal of the music here? Why would you give us so much, then take it all away and drop everything out? We have a frenzied first passage, peel back a few layers, give us the same kind of textural flavor, but dynamically different. That's a pretty decent songwriting trope. But now we have to change. We have to change the direction of the song just to give it some kind of sense of motion, and they stop everything. This is a very strong songwriting handicap. And it tells me that the crux of the arrangement is not nearly as important as what the riffs themselves are doing. This is just, it's not put together with enough thought to signify to me that this is an important artistic statement. This is essentially, if you walk into Guitar Center on a good day, where people are playing not Enter Sandman, and you hear a decent riff over here and a decent riff over there, and then you decided to staple them together and call it a song. There's no forethought in that. And granted, people that listen to music nowadays are doing it in their car on their way to work. They're doing it in the background, or if they're listening to it live, not now of course, but when they do, it's background music to drinking and socializing. So people like me there's not a lot of people like me that are going to be looking at the planning aspect of songwriting, but as someone that tries in my own way to dictate the parameters of what makes a song, what makes an album, what makes an actual artistic statement, it's disappointing to me that this is passing as not only something that is reputable, but immensely respected and copied by countless people. But once again, people are very good at copying aesthetic and not understanding substance. Thankfully, this band doesn't have the latter, so all you have to do if you want to sound like animals as leaders is manipulate dynamics, make sure you're giving the syncopated rhythms, and make sure that you have flashy, over-the-top guitar work that is scalar. And if you look at a great artist, whether it's metal, whether it's whatever, you shouldn't be able to completely analyze in a couple of phrases what that artist represents. If you can do that, like I just did, there's just not enough there. There's just not enough there to signify why the band should exist, why the song should exist, why this as a genre and I guess movement should exist. But let's keep going with it, see if they can piece it together. Okay, good. They did something good, brought back something that they foreshadowed before, and the chords that he is playing now are giving it more character underneath. I like that. I would like to see more forethought like this brought in. So it's Meshuggah. It's hi-hat the whole time. Make sure your audience can groove. Make sure your audience can mosh. That's the most important thing. And that should never be the most important thing. The goal of Meshuggah is to sound mechanical, to sound like machinery, and that's what Meshuggah does. Let them be Meshuggah. You don't have to do that. It's being done, and it's been done better than what you can bring to the table. what I mean? This is not compositionally sound, but that's not their goal. Maybe it is. If your goal is to be respected as a musician and make musicians music, which is kind of what this is, but also streamlined enough to get random, metalcore jocks to mosh to it, you would think that you would want to make sure that your songwriting is on point. But, every time they have to make a transition here, they completely drop out the rhythm section. Once again, when you do that, you can get away with anything. What I did like before that is there was a section in there where they changed the bass line under it, which also was foreshadowed beforehand. Doing stuff like, and in the foreshadowing part, they only did it for one single phrase length. They elaborated on it, I think, 4 times here. That's good. Stuff like that will tie a composition together. But it's not enough if you really cannot string your parts together. This is a song that is trying to operate in like a wave format. It rushes all of the dynamics at you, kind of tries to bombard you, and then it releases and lets you get a break through a clean passage. And that's fine. You can get away with that as long as you have a melodic center point that ties that together, or you can make your tempos consistent by having your rhythm carry it. But if you're going to do something like this, where you just peel back the instrumentation enough, where you have a single instrument carrying it completely, it really shows me that you can't piece it together. And as I've said in my suffocation video, they wrote the book on that, but they were able to continue their moods consistently enough and their melodies consistently enough where it didn't really detract from the nature of the song. This, thankfully, is inhibited by, being inhibited is bad, but it is so melodically similar throughout that I think that his voicings, his melodic voicings are they have a very small parameter, and a lot of bands that try to do this kind of style will throw huge dynamic shifts in notes at you to give you the guise of this is crazy sounding. And his particular melodic style is limited to the point where they aren't doing that, but I don't believe it's on purpose. I think it's because he doesn't have that many methods of expression. If you break down what Tosin Abasi does, he is known for his attack on the guitar. He's very percussive. If you watch how he plays with his right hand, he kind of changed the game on how the kind of sounds you can get out of your instrument. And that's always cool, if you're gonna try to innovate on an instrument that's been a mainstay for so long and be successful in any way, kudos to you. But I would like to see more of the melodic aspect and his actual voicing as a player, who he is as a player, developed more than just based on the technique alone that he's doing when he plays. I do enjoy that when I hear him play, even after all of the copycats on YouTube, I know that it's him. I know that he has a very particular way of attacking the strings that he developed on since this song happened. But the melodic structuring underneath could be any of those bands that he is currently inspiring. And if you're able to copy someone's melodic sensibility, they don't really have that much of an organic voice to begin with. Copying someone's melodic sensibility should be difficult, because it should be innate to the player. If you've heard this band, you know this style and you know the sound. not even just in terms of the melodic voicings, but the actual plugins that they use for the sounds, that clean tone, the distortion, all of it is very character to the modern metal, gent, whatever you want to call it, subgenre. So it's limited. It's very limited because it is entirely based on what he is doing now, and he is limited. So if you're going to copy this guy, copy this band, which is already an amalgamation of things that have previously existed, you're taking a Xerox of a Xerox, and it's just, you know what happens when you do a Xerox of a Xerox. You know, watch the movie Multiplicity, you get the dumbass. But anyway, let's continue with the song. What the fuck was the purpose of that? Why? Why would you have this this clean passage that is kind of hokey in there? If you're just gonna stop everything again and then come in heavy with your fucking Meshuggah part, why? This is the kind of shit that pisses me off so much about modern metal. And because he did it here, everyone thinks it's fucking okay. It's not okay. God fucking damn it. Sounds crazy, but it's really not. If you listen to what that rhythm guitar is doing, even though it's syncopated, it's just going back and forth between two notes. It's about as simple melodically as you can get. Stop everything again, go into a completely different rhythm. Not a song. They did it again. That's 5 times. You know, there's like 4 riffs in the song. Piece them together. God fucking damn it. So they went into the first riff again, changed the rhythm underneath, and changed the melody underneath. Slight bit of kudos there for that. A fucking fade out. Unbelievable. This song inspired a complete fucking subgenre. 5 lack of transition points and a fade out. It's not fucking songwriting. But you know, the reason why it's successful is because it's superficially, aesthetically um, eye-catching and ear-catching. People can't hear melody anymore. People can't understand uh, why point A to point Z matters. They just want what is going to be aesthetically pleasing to be playing while they're doing something else. This band capitalizes on that, and this genre exists because of that. And that is a fucking problem. That is something that is going to be so hard to overcome in metal. And as people get more fragmented in their thinking, this is the only stuff that is going to get peddled to us, and that fucking sucks. Like, we really need to workshop what we're doing again. I say we as if there's anybody that cares about what's going on in the genre as a whole. Everyone's out to just make a name for themselves. But it kind of blows my mind that that people are drawn to express themselves through instruments and just don't think about the planning of their vision. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's really disappointing. But this is the kind of stuff that is, it's ubiquitous now. It's everywhere. And if we're going to try to reverse the tide, it's going to take more people to become aware of why there's so little happening here and why this has no timeless value. You know, it's a product of a very small amount of time where the aesthetics of multiple subgenres of metal were melded into one not cohesive package, but was still engineered at making the audience happy instead of the artist. And we need to start looking for that. We need to start hearing things and being like, is this part of the rock aesthetic of making the whole world sing? Or is this someone that had to have their voice be heard or they were not going to feel complete? That's not what this is. This is definitely written to captivate and put one over on the audience. And not only did it work on musicians, but it worked on music fans. It worked on music journalists. It's fucking unbelievable that this band has so much of a career based on this kind of lack of harnessing of compositional awareness. But I just wanted to pinpoint why modern metal is in the toilet right now. And like I said, Tosin's a very fucking nice guy. And I you know, after seeing him in a relatively unknown band get somewhere and have people all over the world know his music, that's an incredible thing. Good for him. But man, I would really like to have people care about an artist's message more than his technique. You know, at the end of the day, who gives a fuck about technique? Did you put out an artistic statement that matters enough to inspire people to think differently about themselves, about you, about the world? Or did you put out something that people are like, oh, wow, he did some sweep picking and the drummer was able to mimic the rhythms with his feet? Good fucking job. Go back to the drawing board. Give me something inspiring because I am dying to hear it. I need to hear inspired metal. Tell me in the comments where I could find it, please, because this shit is killing me. Honestly, it's fucking killing me.